My goal is to help you have deeper knowledge into the real estate market before you either buy or sell a property, investing in your first either rental, Airbnb, you name it. What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode here of Living in El Paso. I'm Alexa Bangat. I'm a local real estate advisor. I'm also an investor in the area. And my goal is to help you have deeper knowledge into the real estate market before you either buy or sell a property, or maybe you're considering actually investing in your first either rental, Airbnb, you name it. So with that being said, I want to have a very important conversation about appraisals. First, we're going to cover what an appraisal is, how they're actually determined, and how they can affect you. So if this is something you're interested in, definitely stick around, grab some snacks, and let's get started. Now, the first thing is, what is an appraisal? And of course, if you go and search it online, it's going to give you some definitions of what an appraisal is. I'm going to give you a basic understanding of an appraisal. An appraisal is basically when an appraiser, okay, I had a lot of people sometimes confuse an inspector with an appraiser. So they're two different entities. The appraiser actually is coming on behalf of the bank, okay? So if you're doing cash, we don't even have to worry about an appraisal. You can literally offer $1 million for a house that's worth $500,000 if you so desire. That does not matter. However, an appraiser is somebody that the bank is actually going to send on their behalf to assess the value of the home. Now, they are an unbiased third-party company, so they don't work for the bank. They're actually hired from, again, a third-party source, and the bank is actually telling them, I need you to go and actually appraise this home in order for us to determine if it's actually worth what this buyer that is asking me, in this case, I'm acting as the bank, for the amount of, let's say, $500,000 to actually loan them on their behalf. So an appraisal is very important to understand because a lot of the times people want to actually say one thing on the contract, and if they don't actually understand how the appraisal is going to affect you, it can be a mess. Now, another easy way to reference it is an appraiser is actually going to go out to the home to determine what this property is actually worth in order for the bank to loan you this money. Okay, so if you're asking the bank, hey bank, I need for you to loan me $500,000 to buy this gorgeous home, I need $1 million to buy this beautiful home, then they're gonna tell you, great, let's make sure that this is actually something that it's worth what you're offering this buyer. Now, another quick note on that is the appraisal is something that you as the buyer has to pay for, okay? A lot of the times I have people ask me, well, can the actual seller cover that? Technically, everything is negotiable in real estate, so I will always tell you that. However, when it comes to the contract and who is actually ordering the appraisal, it is something that you as a buyer, you're gonna have to cover up front. And then of course, maybe you can ask for a concession to cover some of the fees that you've covered, but that is something typically you will cover. Now that you have to pay with your lender. Now, something I do want to also make sure you're aware of is typically here in Texas, it's going to run you for about $600, $700 your appraisal. And the reason I started off by saying the difference between an appraiser and an inspector is very different is because I've heard a lot of people say, I had my house inspected twice, once from the actual inspector and one from the appraiser. The appraiser is really just there to look at the general outlining of the home. What I mean by this is they're looking, especially if they're VA, they're gonna be a lot more particular. If there's like scratched paint lifting, they will literally ask the seller to cover this. So if you're a seller and you're going to accept a VA file, make sure you have everything in the best condition possible. Also, FHA files can be a little tricky there, but it is something you want to be aware of because a lot of the times when people think an appraiser went out, they think, oh, he's going to inspect the property for defects and damages. That's not actually the case. They're going, yes, to make sure that the house is actually worth that money that you're actually asking to be lended, but they're also just going there to give like a general assessment, an unbiased assessment. They're gonna walk through the property. They're gonna make sure that the house is not caving in, that the foundation isn't caving in, that you actually have a solid investment there for the bank to actually secure their investment. Think of it that way, okay? Now, an inspector is very different, because an inspector you also hire as a third-party source, and you're gonna actually hire them to go and inspect the property. And depending on what package you purchase, they can go as extensive as checking, the plumbing, to just a general walkthrough and checking to see if light bulbs are working, if the thermostat is working, if your HVAC system is working. That is more what an actual inspector does. So inspection, think of it as somebody inspecting. Appraisal, think of it as somebody actually appraising the value of your home, okay? Now, why are appraisals important? We're gonna dive into why appraisals are important, and the reason they're so important is because it determines the value of the home that you're buying. I mean, come on, we're not buying some, Sunday takeout, right? We're actually investing in something that is going to, for most people, on average, it's one of the largest investments of their life. So you want to make sure that whatever you're offering is actually going to be backed up by the value of this home. Now, I will say something that I've noticed a lot, especially when COVID happened. Right now, we're not really seeing this, but again, real estate is like, so what we would see a lot in real estate in the market of 2021, 2020, is that people were literally offering above the appraised value. And I know, before you negative Nancy's go into the comments and start saying, that was so ridiculous and that was so why did they do that? Just chill really quick. Something that people sometimes don't think is that depending on the terms and depending on the situation, it still made a lot of sense to a lot of people, because they were still getting a better deal as opposed to waiting, let's say 3 years. Now the market being at a 6-7% interest rate. Back then, them getting a 2% interest rate, even if they paid $30,000 more for that home, literally by comparison of the 6-7% that they're now paying in that monthly payment, it was still a lot less what they actually paid for that home. So just for you guys, before you start saying all those things in the comments, my beautiful people. Okay, back to the comment I was making. So the reason it's so important is because some people, they think I can just offer whatever, right? If you're in a multiple bid situation, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna offer, hey, we're competing with 5 other offers, which I have seen still at this time in this market. In some homes, we actually do still get, some attention. I got one listing out in the Lower Valley. It was, a home that was priced literally right underneath $200,000. It was a well-kept home, okay? Like, this is not something people looking at this video, if you're in California, you're like, $170,000, like what were they buying? No, it was a good home, okay? And I'll put a link for you guys down below, actually. So this home, we got multiple offers. We got 7 offers. My clients actually got to choose which one was gonna be in alignment with when they wanted to move out, closing costs, terms, everything. So just keep that in mind. But of course, more on the realistic side, right now we are in a buyer's market, which is very beneficial to a lot of buyers. Why do I say this? Well, because a lot of the times, you might think, hey, we're competing and we want to get that house and we know that we're getting a great deal. So go ahead and offer them, I don't know, $5,000 more, $8,000 more, $10,000 more. Here's the thing though, if you are not waiving the right to your appraisal, that does not matter. You can literally offer $1 million and it does not matter, because at the end of the day, you're only going to be liable for what you actually offered that is going to be protected under your appraisal. This is very important because a lot of agents out there don't actually understand how that works, and they will tell their clients like, oh, let's just roll it into, the offer and we'll be good. We have a good chance. That's not true, because if you didn't actually add the document that's going to say that you're waiving the right to your appraisal, that offer doesn't mean anything. Now, on the contrary, if you are aware of how it works and you're like, no, like I just want to offer more because I think I'm going to get my offer accepted because the seller is going to see that as a bigger number, that's not really the case either, because us as agents representing the seller at that point, we're going to tell them like, it doesn't matter that they're offering you more money. It's really not guaranteed. It's like me giving you a blank check that doesn't have any association with any account that actually has money, okay? So it's very important to understand what that appraisal actually symbolizes and how exactly this is important for you. Now, here we're gonna talk about the next third point, which is the impact of the appraisal. Let's just say you were in a situation, which has happened, okay, that you offered what they were asking you for, but your agent didn't do an analysis for you. I always recommend you ask your agent before you submit an offer to run a market analysis. And a lot of us, we already know the market enough to know this house is priced way above asking. Like I've seen some houses in some areas that I know it's not gonna sell for that, and I will tell my clients, it's not gonna come out at that value. Like there's no way. So we'll actually either do a price reduction already up front, or we'll tell the agent already up front, we know that this is not gonna appraise. We wanna make sure we're all in agreement because we don't want to pay the appraisal, pay the inspection, pay the earnest money, waste a month waiting to find out that this appraisal came back up, below value, and then your seller is not willing to budge and reduce the price. So it's very important to have that communication. Why? Because if not, and the appraisal comes down below the market value and the seller is being very unrealistic, because that has happened. They're like, no, I'm set on what I want. It doesn't matter that the appraisal came in at that, they have to pay it. If you're the buyer, you just literally lost all this money on the inspection, on the appraisal, because you have to pay for these things up front, right? You pay for the inspection as soon as you order it, and you pay for the appraisal as soon as you order it. So these are things that you really want to consider the impact of how it can actually affect you. So always ask your agent, hey, can you run the comps? Can you run the appraisal for me? I'm sorry, the comps, so you can tell me what you think the appraisal could come in at to avoid that problem happening to you. Now, we're gonna talk about the fourth key component here, and this is factors that actually influence your appraisal. Now, this is going to be location. This is going to be the lot size. This is going to be things such as the market value in that specific area. This is going to be the condition of the home. And something that I always find that is important to understand, and I find it funny because, again, sometimes we're trying to either educate our clients and they're just set on what they believe is true, which at that point you can't, force them to believe something else. All you can do is reference facts. But I want to say this to you so that you're not in that situation. A lot of the times people think, if you're a seller, let's say you added the roof, okay? And you're like, hey, Alexa, I added a brand new roof. That means that this house is worth more, right? Because I added a brand new roof. No, that's not the case. Why? Because in the common sense of actually selling a home, whoever's gonna buy your house is expecting to have a roof. Plain and simple, okay? So as a buyer, let's say I'm the buyer here, I'm not gonna pay more for your house just because it has a new roof. Like, it should already have a roof. It's like you telling me, hey, well, I'm gonna sell you my car for more because it has the tires. And yes, you can maybe argue, well, Alexa, I'm giving you new tires. It doesn't matter. I'm not gonna buy your car if it doesn't have tires, right? So this is very important to understand, because I've had some people and some very difficult conversations with some people that we've had to tell them, like, I'm sorry, but that doesn't add value. And this is where you really wanna understand the things that add value and the things that don't add value. Another very hard pill to swallow for a lot of people is pools. Oh my gosh, pools. Some people think that a pool is just gonna add a ton of value to your home. And if you're, in the pool industry and you're watching this video, please don't come for me, but these are just facts. I've spoken with appraisals, they've shared this information. I love pools, I love how they look. But realistically, you're never gonna get the value that you put in for that pool. I had a client, they put over $100,000 in this pool, like a beautiful pool, you name it, surround system, it had the lights, it had everything heated. There's a lot of money, okay? But when it came to sell, he was thinking, oh, well, we're gonna be able to get the full amount that we invested and then some. But realistically, when I told him, like, look, that's not the case. Like, I'm telling you, it's gonna not appraise for this amount. They were close friends, so I agreed. But with the condition of, I'm gonna list it, but I'm just telling you that this is going to appraise for less. It was a pocket listing, so we don't actually market those on the MLS. We did some advertising and we reached out to some of our pool of buyers. Well, the appraisal came in, and surely enough, it did not appraise at what I had already told him it wouldn't appraise at. So when we ended up having that discussion originally before going on to actually starting to advertise it, we were very clear about you're gonna have to be okay with that price reduction because it's gonna happen. And I wasn't trying to be a negative Nancy. For those of you that know me and been following, I'm all about mindset and having a positive approach to life because you can't control the things that you can't control. Might as well focus on the things you can control. But there's certain things that you have to be realistic about, and that was one of them. So when it comes to things that influence your appraisal, be very mindful of it. In this situation, this house, and you might be like, what? There's no way. They actually only got about $25,000 in value for this pool. Yes, from $100,000 to about $25,000. So this is something you really want to be aware of because I see it a lot and it costs deals. So make sure that you know how the appraisal can actually impact you. And the fifth one is when are appraisals actually used? And we kind of covered it at the beginning, but that's when you're actually asking from financing. If you actually don't need financing and you're going to be your own bank because you have the money in your bank account, then you don't have to deal with an appraisal. However, if you are a buyer that will need financing, like 9 out of 10 people will, then at that point in time, you want to make sure that you actually understand how you're going to order it. And that's usually with your lender. Your lender is going to tell you, hey, are you ready? Did you already pass your option period? In some states, it's called the due diligence period when you actually conduct inspections, you check everything out. So if that's the case, then they're going to tell you we're good to order. You're going to say, yes, we're good to order the appraisal. They're going to order the appraisal for you. Typically, they have about 3 weeks to actually get assigned, like for somebody to actually pick up the order because they have to pick up the order, meaning the appraiser. And then after that, it gets assigned to somebody, the file actually gets assigned. And then from there, they say, hey, we're gonna go out on this date. And then from there, the listing agent will provide them a 1-day code. They go to the property, they assess it, and then boom, we're good to go. The appraisal is conducted, but it doesn't mean that they're gonna send it to you right away. Just keep that in mind, okay? Because I've seen a lot of people get very frustrated because they don't get it right away. I wish we got it right away. That would make things so much easier. But you have to keep in mind these appraisers, and if you're an appraisal, please feel free to comment down below. I would love that. Give some knowledge, share some knowledge with us. But a lot of my friends that are appraisers, they've actually told us that the way that a lot of this works is actually going to be that when they get the file, it's not like you're the only file, right? Like there's a bunch of other files. You're not the only person buying in that area. So just keep that in mind because it does take them a while to finish that and then send it back to you guys. Now, some things to just consider as some quick tips is make sure that if you're on the seller side, that you do as much as you can to get that house looking as beautiful as possible. And this is going back to the comment I said about the paint. I've had some files, VA, we represent a lot of VA files. I love my military families. I love all my clients. My family's military background, so there's always that special place in my heart for my military folks. And I have seen it with military files. They're very, very strict on the appraisals. So if there is any chips that you're seeing around your home, any situations like that, keep that in mind. I am telling you, because it will get flagged and you will need to go and paint that little part, even if it's that part, but you need to make sure it's in good condition so that you can avoid the appraisal coming back saying, hey, we met value, but you need to fix X, Y, and Z. Also, I made another video on things that you want to make sure your house has. We'll link it down below, but there is like your COs that you need to make sure you have, your carbon monoxides that you need to make sure you have. So a lot of these things, they need to actually be in compliance, because if not, it will get flagged, and then that's going to push a little bit further the dates, because then if the appraiser actually decides they want to go back, some appraisals will say just send me a picture, some of them won't. So if they need to go back now, it can potentially push your time frame in your closing time frame, because now they're going to need to go back, check, make sure, okay, now we can actually clear this file. Now, understanding the report is also something very important. You purchased it, you being, if you're the buyer, you purchased it. If the seller is asking for it, technically, if it met value, you don't need to send it to them, okay? I've had a lot of people when we're representing the buyers and they'll be like, hey, can you send me the report? If the buyer says no, we don't have to send it to you, but some of them will be totally cool and they'll be like, yeah, send it to them. I don't care. It came at value. We're closing. Let's do it. So just keep that in mind. You want to know how to understand it because of this last thing to consider, which is you can challenge an appraisal. And this is something that you just want to make sure you have the right team for it, because there has been some appraisers that honestly just go completely off rails and the value was way below market value. And we know because we've done the actual comps, we've ran the numbers, we've seen what this house has versus what another house has. And this is what's gonna really set you apart, because realistically, there's a lot of agents out there that they just run the comps based off what's selling in that area. So if your house is that like hidden gem that doesn't have a lot of the things that the other houses don't actually, that your house has the things that the other houses don't have, but you also don't have an agent that knows how to compare and verify if some of the things you added actually give the home more value, then potentially you're leaving a lot of money on the table. So make sure that that's not something that happens to you. Make sure you're doing your research. As always, as I've told you guys before, if you're looking to invest in the Texas market area, please let me know. I'm particularly based out of El Paso, so if you are relocating out here, please let us know. We have a lot of clients, law enforcement, military, FBI folks, a lot of people that are actually in this hero category that I like to see, and also a lot of our clients that are just simply looking to retire out here. And obviously, with that comes a lot of questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to let me know. But if it's not El Paso and El Paso's not for you, because I see my people in the comments, the negative Nancy's, I still love you though, because you're still giving, you know, you're exerting energy for no reason. But if you are one of the people that is actually considering another area, we also have teammates that we can partner you up with. We vet our agents very, very closely, because I don't want to recommend you with somebody that is not going to take care of you. So if you are interested in that, feel free to let us know. My Calendly link is listed down below, so feel free to either book a call. My social media handles are there. You can send me a message on Instagram. We're always on that. And also on Facebook and TikTok, so feel free to check those out. You can send us a message directly. We'll get it right then and there. Emails you can also send, but a lot of the times we've had people tell us that they have issues with the email. Sometimes it actually goes under spam, so then they end up having to book a call anyways. So we do recommend you check your email server provider, because sometimes your email will come back to us as spam. So just be on the lookout for that. I had a client recently go through that. Super sweet lady. She's been watching our videos, and she was like, hey, like I hadn't heard back from you, so I decided to call, and now we're helping her in her journey. But just keep that in mind in case you haven't received a response. That's probably what's going on. So feel free to just reach out to us in the other methods I shared with you. If you did find any value in this video, okay, I would greatly appreciate if you would consider giving it a thumbs up, or a comment down below, or sharing it with somebody that you think would benefit from this. And of course, if you could subscribe to the channel, it helps us get our message across to more people to find their agent that's really going to be in alignment with what they are looking to find. So I thank you again for sticking around, tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you guys on the next one.